You know exactly where your net worth is. It is a very common way to measure wealth. And in today's video, we're going to be looking at the upper, the middle, and the lower class with their net worth. Now, when you think of your net worth, it's simple to calculate. For example, if you have $100,000 in a retirement account, you got $25,000 in that emergency fund, but you're still holding on to $10,000 in debt, that is going to give you a net worth of $115,000. Now, overall, when it comes to net worth calculations, I do personally exclude the mortgages just for the simple fact the mortgage values and the pricing of the housing market is so ultra inflated. It might say, you have $500,000 net worth, but you really don't realize it until you sell it, if you can sell it, depending what the market does. That is the reason why, me personally, I do like excluding the home value. You could look at your everyday millionaire, your modern day millionaire, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to net worth and when it comes to the super inflated housing market prices. So let's go ahead and get into this, breaking down the upper, the middle, and the lower class. Now, when we start thinking about the upper class and the lower class, we are talking about the 20%. 20% of those high earners, 20% of those low earners, and we're going to go through the average really net worth that they do possess. So when again we start thinking of the lower class, this is breaking out about the bottom 10 to 20%, average net worth of $16,900. Now that's kind of crazy when you think of the average income in the United States, right around 70,000, that their average net worth is 16K. Now for a lot of people, especially if you are a younger generation, that could also be offset with a lot of student loans, which a lot of people, even middle class, lower middle class, even have the ability or see a negative net worth for an extended amount of time because they're coming out of school with a very, very high amount of that student loan debt. Now we look at the lower middle class. That is an average net worth of 58K. So we're almost up to the average annual salary. 58K, again, you might be a little bit more in your career, might be getting rid of some of that debt, or for a lot of people within kind of the lower middle class, if you bought a home and if you kind of paid the average prices that we're seeing today, chances are again that average net worth could be almost break even, or even on a little bit negative depending on when you're buying it, because home values again are so overinflated from what we're seeing. Now looking at the middle class, this gets to 169K as an average net worth. Again, when you start thinking bigger picture, when you start thinking of 401k plans, and starting to accumulate money in there, getting that average middle class salary of around $70,000 and getting up to 169,000 in the average net worth does come from the home, and that is where we are seeing a lot of it. Even though people are feeling paycheck to paycheck, they're not making any ground, they're not making any progression. The reason is when it comes to net worth calculations, again, they can be very biased when it comes to mortgages themselves. Now, when we start getting up to the upper middle class, the average net worth of this is $300,000 for the upper middle class. So again, thinking of the average net worth, let's say exclude the mortgage out in there. So if you have $300,000 in an investment account in that 401k account, you are way ahead of the average, even in 401k investing. And when you start thinking about the stock market bigger picture, when you look north of this, which is kind of crazy, when you start looking at the upper class, now, of course, this is about the top 80 to 90% of earners. You are looking around $800,000 in average net worth. So you can see kind of the disparity between there. When you look at the upper middle class at 300K, and then you break it into the upper class that starts at 800,000K or $800,000, you literally have to almost triple what you make from the upper middle class going into the upper class. And when you start getting into that top 10%, so if you want to break that and really break into that ceiling of the top 10%, you are looking at $2.65 million net worth, which again is kind of crazy to think. Now the disparity between, again, even the middle class, 169K, the top 10%, 2.65 million, it's kind of crazy. Again, the difference that we see within the United States. Now, if you're an adult and just a younger adult, of course, you are going to have a little bit of a lower net worth. You haven't had time to explore and really understand compounding interest. It is one of the biggest things. But of course, a higher net worth is generally a good sign, but it's not the only important thing because again, we see a lot of people with a very high net worth that are literally living paycheck to paycheck or even being underwater when it comes to monthly liabilities because of cash flow issues. And of course, overspending, keeping up with the Joneses, lifestyle creep makes a big difference. So then the question comes, how can you increase your net worth? Now, there is no need to really obsess about it. It is just really a point in time, and it's a good check-in though. I do love it, and I do this probably about once a year with a net worth calculator, just figuring out exactly where we are. Me personally, investment accounts were sitting about $1 million, just a little over $1 million. Then when we start adding in the house, which again, I do exclude, we're at about 400,000 right there. So we're about 1.4, 1.5 million for an overall net worth. Definitely getting up there, still have many years to work, many more years to invest. And I want to break down exactly how we did this and how we got there. You get more financial security, you start earning a little bit more money. But for me personally, it's breaking it down on not how much money you earn, it is about how much money you keep. When we took out loans years ago for our auto loans, we took out 60 months loans. I paid my loan off in 17 months. Every single penny that I had, access everything that we made from YouTube, from the channel right here. And of course, if you like the content, please subscribe. But every single dollar that we were making within YouTube was going straight into that auto loan. A 60-month loan turned into 17 months. That means that 17 months, I was completely done with the auto loan payments. We did the exact same for my wife's vehicle. We bought it brand new, did it for 60 months, which of course is giving us the lowest interest rate. Within about 24 months, we paid hers off in the entirety, which again, paying a lot less interest than we would if we kept that for the entire 60 months. Now, of course, both of the cars being paid off completely free and clear. The only bill or the only liability we really have right now is the mortgage itself. And me, I'm on the fence of paying it off or keeping it. My opinion is when I'm investing the money, looking at the last 2 years in the stock market, yielding 20+% for 2 years versus paying off 2.5% mortgage really made sense mathematically for me within the finance realm to really go ahead and do that. Now, of course, when you essentially eliminate a majority of your payments, if you start getting a lot of the cash flow positive, you have the ability to invest. Even thinking of me right now, I probably put roughly 50% of my paycheck into an investment account because again, systematically, we eliminated everything. We don't have credit cards, we don't have loans, we have our monthly liabilities. Then we have everything else, which again allows me to invest about 50% of my portfolio. Now, when it comes to building net worth, committing to savings, committing to investing, and in my opinion, guys, when it comes to savings, savings should only be the emergency fund. Now, generally and consistently, when you start thinking about savings, you are looking at 3 to 6 months of your expenses kind of in that high yield savings account, building up that emergency fund. The rest of it, in my opinion, should be invested in its entirety. We are talking 401k plans, we are talking HSAs, we are talking IRAs. Once everything is exhausted, then we're looking at individual brokerage accounts, going ahead and investing in my 4 ETF portfolio, which of course does include cryptocurrency as well. But once you have that emergency fund and that is fully funded, then you can funnel everything into investing. And again, when you invest heavily in the stock market, that is how money grows. That is one of the very most proven, when you think about millionaires and millionaire status, average growth rate of around 10%. If I'm putting 50% of my annual salary into an investment account and it's growing at 10% every 7 or less years, doubling, it's kind of crazy how fast you can stockpile money and how fast you can really build this to build that generational wealth. Now, once that emergency fund is set, because of course there are going to be unexpected expenses that are going to come out. That is the reason why we first off definitely go ahead and fully fund that emergency fund. And of course, when it comes to debt, this is the most important part of being and really living a debt-free life. When you get there is be very selective about taking on debt, avoiding high interest debt. When it comes to credit cards, they are an absolute pandemic in the United States on how much money, and I believe it's around 1.4 trillion, if I remember last time I seen, around $1.4 trillion in credit card debt, which of course is super expensive when you start looking at the monthly payment and looking at the interest rates on those cards itself. Really following these habits will grow your net worth over time, getting you into a higher bracket. And of course, it's not all about money, guys. It's about the experience. It's about life. But if you're sitting and paying interest, it is taking your time away. You have to make sure, because there is a point where every year you should check in, just see exactly where the net worth is, where you kind of fall, and see where you can cut and adjust within that budget or that spending plan. All right, guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.